Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Preacher. A great episode. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I do appreciate that we kind of finally get a bigger scope of everything to a certain extent. Well, for one, we kind of understand what it is exactly Hitler and Jesus are talking about. The whole conversation is negotiations about when the apocalypse happens and a shit ton of people die. The question then becomes like, well, where do the souls go? They're basically divvying it up, being like, okay, if people repent at the last second, they come to heaven. Because even Hitler was like, oh, so you're telling me that even if someone does something atrocious, basically referencing his own crimes, but they repent right before they die, they get to go to heaven? It's like, yes. But then Hitler's like, okay, if you do that, then I'm going to take back the gay people. So, like, I guess they're negotiating on who goes to heaven and who goes to hell. So that's interesting. Because it was even interesting because God's calling up Hare and he's like, yo, how's my son doing? It's like, oh, Jesus, he's going up against Hitler in this whole negotiations, but he's handling his own. But then God's like, no, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about Humperdinck. Which, side note, it kind of sucks because it's like no matter what he does, like he's up. Because that's why Jesus does all that he's doing is because he's like, oh, this is part of Dad's plan. I don't think he cares that much about the apocalypse, but like he has responsibilities and this is what his dad expects of him and wants of him. But no matter what he does, it's never good enough because it's like, Jesus isn't the one that he loves and cares about the most. It's Humperdinck, which we still don't know why that is. That's still like the spawn of your son, so why him and not Jesus? Like, what special role is Humperdinck going to play in all of this? Like I said, we know he's supposed to be like the Messiah and everything. But even I get the feeling, because in this show, obviously God's so much of an asshole, it kind of feels like he knows Humperdinck's situation. So it's like, the reason why Hare doesn't want him to be a Messiah, the reason why he wanted Jesse, because it's like our Messiah would be an idiot. But it's like, God knows that, and maybe that's the point. Or maybe it's because Humperdinck is the purest. Maybe he wants to wipe the slate clean and start off with the purest because obviously he wiped out the dinosaurs because like, oh, this was a test and you failed. The dinosaur ate its own shit. Which we also talk about the thing at the beginning with like the whole Abe situation. It's like, oh, also I love that his wife has like the thickest accent. I'm terrible with accents. I'm assuming that was kind of Jersey-ish. I think maybe even Boston, but I think it might have been Jersey. Regardless. I just think that's kind of interesting. It's like, oh, I was going to kill my son for you. And he's like, yes, it was a test and you passed. And he's like, oh, I love you so much. And so he rewinds it over and over again. And I think in a twisted way, that's what this is all about. You want to be loved. And it's like, I guess it's like people don't show you the love you just feel like you deserve. So it's like, oh, they're just a waste of space. You know what? I'm gonna start clean with Humperdinck being the Messiah. Like I'll gain, like, I don't know. Like the fact is that it was like, oh, I love you very, very much. It's like, which is also interesting. The fact is he has that all on tape because we saw one saying Job, we saw one saying Noah. So it's like, it's almost like he's reliving the highlights. Maybe for him, it's like this world has grown so dull. It's like, you know what? I'm going to start fresh. It's going to be exciting. If you're familiar with like the magicians, like the whole, I'm always mixing them, the Ember Umber situation. I think it's kind of a similar thing to that. Like, I'm bored. Let's start over type of thing. Maybe not. I don't know. But like I said, maybe Humperdinck is that like, oh, you're that completely pure soul that I want to, start from scratch with to be this Messiah and everything. I don't know. So there's that side of things though. Yeah, Cassidy and Tulip looking for Jesse, and I love them pretending to be like undercover cops or whatever to basically get talking to the commissioner so they can find this crazy preacher that killed Tulip's partner that they're hunting down. Also, I couldn't help but being like, holy shit, hearing Joseph Gilgun do an American accent kind of threw me off because like I've never heard him do one before because I've always heard him at least because like other than this, the only other thing I'm most familiar with his work is Misfits, and in that he uses his natural accent like he does in this show too. So it's interesting just to hear him put on an American accent, which is also funny because obviously like Dominic Cooper and Ruth Negga also put on American accents too. I've only ever heard her talk one time, and it was on a talk show. I think I might have seen other interviews with her, but there was like one instance in particular I watched her on. I forgot. I think it was her first late night appearance. She's very soft spoken, actually. I don't know if that, maybe it was just because she's very bashful, which obviously is just kind of funny because she's the complete opposite of Tulip. I mean, that shows you how much of a good actor she is. The fact is that she's able to play that up so well, even though it doesn't seem like that's who she is at all in real life. I mean, that's just how I took it, but nevertheless, that was just me kind of getting on a whole tangent of accents and stuff like that. Still, it's so interesting to hear him say all that stuff in an English accent and stuff like that. And then it's like, oh no, the preacher's dead. It's like, wait, what? No, he's not. Yeah, we got the killer here, and Eugene confessed to it and everything, which I even love that guy being like, oh, the cop in particular is kind of like, oh yeah, he probably killed the preacher just because it's like, well, because he's so pissed, probably mad at the world because of the way he looks, which, to be fair, he's not. Eugene's kind of always just accepted the way he looks because he always blamed himself for so long. It's like, no, this is my own fault because of the way things played out with Tracy, which obviously season 2, he kind of, dealt with that. But, which even had, Cassie been like, yeah, he might have the face of an ass, but he's actually kind of a kind kid. Because even Tulip was saying that there's no way you would have killed Jesse because you're too much of a kind person to do that. Like, the fact is, you might have shot Jesse, but you didn't kill him. Because she's like, if Jesse had died, I would know. And it's like, he's probably going to wish that he was because the cowboy has him. And it's like, wait, what? But the moment the cowboy's fixing him up, I'm like, what the hell is up with that? I thought you'd want him dead. I mean, to be fair, the only reason why he really wanted Jesse dead to begin with, well, for one, he hates preachers, obviously because of his past. But also because, it was mainly because it was all a promise to get to his wife and daughter. So, he had motive for doing what he did. But other than that, like, it's like, yeah, why would he be coming after Jesse all this time? And it seems like, his plan is to go after God. So I wonder why he decided to work with Jesse. I guess he felt like going with Jesse would be the easiest thing. Or maybe it's because he felt like he could use Jesse's power as well, like the word. Or maybe because he knows it potentially would work on God. I mean, once again, we don't know if it necessarily would. Because I don't know if it was technically considered, the fact is whether God technically has a soul or not. Because if you don't have a soul, the word's not going to work on you. So I don't know. Because that begs the question, like, could the word have worked on Satan? I don't know if he has a soul or not. I don't think so. I could be wrong. But it was kind of interesting, Jesse being like, drop your weapons and get on your knees. And the cowboy's just looking at him. He's like, come on. He's like, I just had to give it a try. It's like, yeah, I just had to take the chance to see if it actually would work or not. So I appreciate he did try nonetheless. And so they're walking and stuff. I love, Jesse trying to make his move. Well, before even all that, kind of explaining everything, because Jesse's like, you're not going to kill God. Because Jesse's also saying, like, I'm coming from the perspective of, I understand. He's like, I lost my family to my mom and dad who were better people than you and me. And it's like, for Jesse, and his goal kind of hasn't changed since the beginning. It's been like, I got to know why God does what he does. Like, what is the reason? What is the purpose of all this? Because there's so much suffering in this world. Because he even brings up, like, oh yeah, he was in the same position as the cowboy because him and Tulip had a baby that they lost. We learned about that in season 2. So obviously it's like, I got to understand what all this pain and suffering's for. So I can't let you kill him, but obviously the cowboy kind of makes his point by killing 3 innocent people just to kind of force Jesse's hand. And I love when Jesse ends up like taking his guns away from him and ends up trying to shoot him, but the guns don't work. So Jesse just pistol whips him and then looks down from his shades like, okay. And then the cowboy's just kind of like, yeah, I like that snake idea of yours better, about the whole like using snakes to kind of on the cowboy, but they're all not coming around here, even though they're so deadly, because they're most likely scared of him. And it just Jesse just reluctantly hands over the gun, just kind of goes, fine, let's go. I love that. So all the while that's happening, Tulip and Cassidy are trying to track down Jesse. I love that whole scene where the lady, Sheila, is offering him more. He's just like, Cassidy's like, you know what? Are you going to offer me basically with some drugs or something I can get high off of? If not, I'm just going to get the check. And then she's like, well, there's some fire retardant back there. And Cassidy's like, oh, do tell. And as we can see later on, he's getting high off of it. So I love that. Side note, I need to add this in here because it's something I was idiotically didn't realize. The whole Frank situation with the foreskin thing. That's a callback to season 2. I didn't even think about that. Season 2's premiere, Cassidy was in, when the road trip really kind of starts, he brought up that whole conversation of like certain creams and stuff like that are made from baby foreskin. So that they brought that bit back in a big way. It's like that was literally 2 seasons ago, and they brought it back to be like, yeah, that foreskin bit, except it's not baby foreskin, or maybe it was, but now it's being made from Cassidy's foreskin. So there's that whole situation. But I didn't even think about that until like maybe last week is when I first thought about it. Either way, that I just felt like adding that in because I feel like such an idiot for not putting 2 and 2 together because I'd actually forgotten about that entirely. It just randomly hit me. I was like, right, huh. Nevertheless, like I said, another tangent. So then you have Tulip, going into God's RV where she sees everything, where everything's planned, because she sees the man dog suit and everything, and sees Jesse and God, little models of him, and it's like, oh, I know what he's planning. Oh, here's a picture of that rock, and I was like, God's watching, isn't it? And lo and behold, he is. Because it's just interesting that he just happened to leave all this evidence behind. That's the point. He wants all 3 of them together. Because I guess it's like all 3 of them are a thorn in his side. So it's like, why not get rid of them? Because he doesn't want to even take the chance that they might, interfere with his plans in the grand scheme of things. So all that's happening. Something else to kind of know I thought was kind of interesting is Tulip never actually read Jesse's letter. That was kind of interesting because for her, she was actually too scared to, because she assumes what the letter's about. She's like, she's like, either it's going to say like, you're a dumb bitch, or you're a dumb bitch and I forgive you. For her, she just kind of assumed the worst, and assuming is one thing, but I think it's because she's too scared to actually see, because if she reads it, it makes it all too real. So she's pessimistic about it, but she's afraid to read it in case of what it says, So, which Cassidy did read it because it's like, oh, maybe there's some clues to where we'll find Jesse, but he doesn't tell her what's in the letter because she doesn't want to know. It's like, because he said he was going to skip over the personal bits, but it's like, nah, I'm sure he actually read it, so he knows what the letter says, but he gives it back to Tulip. It's like, yeah, there's nothing in there telling us where Jesse is. I also love, as Hare was like, oh, gets the call from God and everything. And he's like, yeah, when you see me again, Hoover 2, I'm going to be more attractive. And Hoover 2 is like, can't wait, sir. And I was like, what the hell? I was like, wait a minute. Is that what you're getting out of this? And it turns out that is the case. Not only is he going to get to carve a vagina into Jesse's head, because that's just personal revenge, he's also going to be made attractive again. So I'm wondering, when he asks God to do that, is God going to undo everything? That includes, because is he going to be like, oh, this is going to be the hair star that we met prior to season 3 before he got the penis head and the missing ear, where now he has a foreskin ear? I'm sure that. I wonder, does that include the eye and everything? Is he going to make him prettier in other regards too? Well, he's going to need a lot more work now because God sent a dingo after his genitals. Well, to be fair, it was meant for his throat, but because he's so tall, because apparently dingoes go for the throat, but because he's tall, it went for his genitals instead, which is like, oh, it didn't kill him, it just mutilated him. It's like, damn it, you can't catch a damn break. It's like one thing after another of mutilation. You've literally gotten mutilated twice already this season. Like, that's crazy. And just, so I even love it's like whether that's supposed to be funny or something, where God was like, he's like, oh, if you'll make me attractive, and God's like, well, God willing. And then kind of you have Hare kind of looking at him like, almost like, is that supposed to be a joke, or is that supposed to be like, maybe I'll do it? Because it seemed like a kind of a maybe. It didn't even seem like a guarantee. It seemed more like I might make you attractive again. Maybe not. We'll see. So I don't know. What was also interesting, though, in Masada, I'm pretty sure it looked like it could have been her, but the person fixing the coffee, that looked like that was actually Featherstone in disguise, which I guess she snuck back into Masada, and I guess she probably ended up following Hare to Australia. Maybe not. I don't know. It seems I'm curious. Is she going to do something while he's gone? Is she going to kill Hoover? Because it's interesting, because like Australia is where everyone is. That's where Tulip's at. That's where Cassidy's at. That's where Jesse's at. So, and speaking of that whole situation, escalation phase 2 was activated, and so basically the the Grail, I was about to call them the Guild. The Grail makes it look like, oh no, Australia killed the New Zealand Prime Minister, kind of dumped his body in a crate and stuff like that. And basically it leads to kind of all-out war to a certain extent. They're trying to make it seem like, because that's supposed to be the apocalypse. They're trying to get countries warring with each other, even getting a nuke involved in everything. So, but it doesn't seem like that was necessarily part of the ultimate plan of like, because I thought like, oh, that's where it's supposed to be, like the moment God had that little toy model of a nuke, I was like, oh, so that's supposed to be kind of how this all turns out. But it seems like that was also part of like the plan for Jesse, not necessarily the plan for all-out war. Or maybe it's supposed to kind of be a double, maybe it's supposed to be a two birds one stone type of thing of like dealing with Jesse and dealing with starting igniting the bad blood and flames war, essentially. So, but nevertheless, I did like that whole situation of like Cassidy and Tulip coming to Jesse's rescue, and he saw things kind of playing out. He's like, yeah, you're going to be mad, but know that the next time I'm in your crosshair, the fact is, you're going to need me, especially if you want to go after God. And so, luckily, they come in and save the day. I even love Jesse being like, what was it? Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, I guess walking's kind of your thing. A cowboy without, a horse and all that. He talks about the fact is that it makes me kind of miss the whole me running and you trying to kill me type of thing. He's like, oh, don't worry, we'll go back to those days soon enough, the cowboy was saying, so it's going to be interesting. And I did like them being reunited and everything, because like Tulip's not talking to Jesse, but you do have the whole Jesse and Cassidy conversation where Cassidy was like, oh yeah, we're going to have to ask God about the Big Lebowski, because if we don't get the answers about that, I'm going to punch him in the face or something like that. And Jesse and Cassidy are laughing. It's like they're mates again, obviously. And I thought that was kind of nice. And you even see in the front, Tulip's kind of smiling, because I think, for one, it's having Jesse back, but I think them being a group again. They haven't been all together again since halfway through season 3, after Cassidy kind of left, Angelville. Like, that was the last time all three of them have been together. So I think it probably feels good to be, reunited, and it feels so good, so. But as they figure out the whole thing at the last second, Cassidy and Jesse figure out, holy shit, this is a trap. Like, we were able to find evidence too quickly. It was just luckily that we found it. So God sets off the bomb, and luckily the plane was able to get away, but it takes on some damage. And Jesse flies out the plane. Cassidy's holding on to him. Jesse's like, let me go. It's like, no, he's not letting go. It's like, dude, no. And Cassidy's arm is burning. It's like, dude. And Jesse's like, tell Tulip to read the letter. And he's like, no. And then like Jesse uses the word to make Cassidy let him go. It's like, holy shit. And then Tulip literally got him back. She wasn't able to say what she wanted to him either. It's like she was pissed at him still. And that's that sad situation. You never know when, well, not just the world, literally God's going to give you the middle finger and screw everything up. So now we kind of come full circle to the very beginning, because I like how they did that too, because they made it seem like those were two separate things, like Cassidy and Tulip in that hotel room or whatever, and Jesse landing, and they were meant to look like two separate events, but they're not. Like Cassidy and Tulip in that motel room or whatever, it's supposed to be afterwards. To be fair, who knows, like how long afterwards, who was that? Because it sounded like there was someone in the bathroom while they were, before they started kissing and stuff like that, so there might be someone else there, maybe, I don't know. But they're probably under the impression that Jesse's dead, and it's probably been a little while, so, Cassidy's probably being there to comfort her, and, maybe that's kind of how I'm chalking that up. So, because like I said, they make it seem like those events were kind of basically happening at the same time, and I guess that was to kind of throw you for a loop, but it's like, dude. And it seems like in the grand scheme of things, this was the main plan. If he had to get rid of anyone, it was to get rid of Jesse, because if Jesse's dead, which begs the question, what happens to Genesis when Jesse's dead? I mean, we know that when Genesis kills its host, like especially if the person's not the right person, it bounces to the next body. So now that Jesse's dead, does Genesis go with him? I mean, it's more of a body thing, right? Well, because it gets reflected by the soul. Like, obviously, Jesse's soul percentage, the good versus evil in his soul, that balance is what resonates with Genesis. So is it inside of Jesse's soul? Because we know that he is potentially going to hell once he, that's what Hitler was kind of saying. So maybe that's the point. Is Jesse straight up dead? It seems like I was like, I don't see you coming back from falling to your death like that. So I'm assuming we're going to deal with a situation of him being in hell and fighting his way back to get from hell. Maybe not. Maybe God comes over. Maybe God is going to try and rip, like, Genesis is still inside of his body. Because there's like a bit in the opening where we see God, it seemed like he's cutting something open and blood splatters on his face. Part of me's like, is that supposed to be God cutting him open and pulling out Genesis? Could that be what that's supposed to be? I don't know. Like, what happens to someone who's with Genesis and they die? Like I said, like, what happens in Jesse's soul? Like, is Genesis' soul inside of Jesse's soul? Is it more so in his body? Like, wherever his soul go, does Genesis go as well? Like, questions like that, I'm so curious to get an answer to. It's like, holy shit. Like, I don't think this is going to stick, but obviously it's like, where are we going with this? It's what I'm so fascinated in figuring out, you know? So I think God now thinks everything's going to go off without a hitch. Or maybe this is all still part of the plan. I don't know. Because from the beginning, because even last season, it seemed like everything he was doing was about getting Jesse out of the way. Everything he was doing to manipulate Tulip to kind of make matters worse so that things will kind of stop Jesse. So it still seems like that's all the case. I'm curious, is he going to get his chance now, Star, the chance to carve a vagina into Jesse's head, especially now that he's dead? Well, his body's a bit of ways away. Plus, he's in a condition of he's most likely recovering from having his genitals mutilated by a dingo. So I am so interested to see where the next episode takes us with all this. I'm also curious to see what ends up happening with the whole Eugene situation. Well, he confessed to killing Jesse. He didn't. But, he probably thinks, oh, this is where I belong, which is interesting considering the fact is he was in hell where he didn't belong and he was locked up and torturing himself over something he really didn't necessarily need to be tortured over. But now he's torturing himself over what happened to Jesse because he's thinking like, oh, now that the Cowboys got him, yeah, like Jesse's going to wish that he was dead, even though things didn't work out that way. But Jesse ended up dead anyway, just under different circumstances. It's definitely going to be interesting to see where things go on that front as well. I can't wait to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good